Chapter 1, The History of Family Therapy, Evolution, and Revolution. We'll discuss the following learning objectives, discussing how family therapy has developed over the decades in both evolutionary and revolutionary ways, describe the major factors and personalities that have propelled family therapy into a profession, and explore recent trends that have influenced the growth and development of family therapy. Some of the catalysts for the growth of family therapy include some factors that combine to make family therapy accepted and eventually popular. One of them is the offering of family life education, the establishment of marriage counseling, the founding of the National Council on Family Relations in 1938, and the establishment of its empirical journal, which is an academic journal, and also practical work of county home extension agents. From 1940 to 1949, family therapy had some development and changes, including the establishment of an association for professionals working with couples, the publication of the first account of concurrent marital therapy by Bella Mittelman in 1948, the study of families of individuals suffering from schizophrenia, which really delved into different family dynamics and how family dynamics impact both mental health issues, their outcomes, their development, and how they can be maintained, and the upheaval of World War II and its aftermath on families, the rearrangement of traditional gender roles, family structures, and how people began to cope with that. From 1950 to 1959, family therapy also encountered some major developmental milestones during that decade. This was considered the genesis or the beginning of the family therapy movement by many historians. Influential leaders that were also theorists and developers of family therapy included Nathan Ackerman, Gregory Bateson, Don Jackson, Milton Erickson, Carl Whitaker, Murray Bowen, Ivan Bosmoreny-Nagy, and we'll discuss some of these in subsequent chapters related to their specific theoretical background. Additionally, in this decade, the formulation of the double-blind theory by the Bateson group was developed. As we said, Ackerman was contributing to the advocacy for working with families. Don Jackson was instrumental in creating the Mental Health Institute, or the MRI, in 1958. Erickson's techniques were influenced by Jay Haley. The influence of Carl Whitaker and his work on dual therapy, aka conjoint couple therapy, which we will discuss in future chapters, and the formulation of initial ideas of family therapy by Murray Bowen. And again, we'll talk about the Bowen perspective or the Bowenian perspective in a subsequent chapter. In the following decade, 1960 to 1969, there were also some important achievements of major family therapists: the development of systems theory, the establishment of training institutes and centers. So building on some of those pre-established theories and centers that were previously developed in the 1950s, but the MRI in Palo Alto, California, which we mentioned, the Family Institute of New York, the Albert Einstein College of Medicine in New York City and affiliated Bronx State Hospital, the Child Guidance Clinic, the Boston Family Institute, and the Institute for Family Studies in Milan, Italy. Some of the major family therapists that we saw in the 1960s included Jay Haley, Salvador Minuchin, Virginia Satir, John E. Bell, and Murray Bowen. So again, you'll see Bowen has quite an impact in family therapy. Jay Haley developed a version of strategic family therapy, which was influenced by Milton Erickson. It emphasizes gaining and maintaining power during treatment, and it uses directives as well as insight. It also includes the edited family process. So as I said, we will spend another chapter discussing some of these concepts. Salvador Minuchin developed structural family therapy. Once again, an entire chapter about this in the future. Did not have formal training in treating families. He trained members of the local Black community as paraprofessional family therapists. And this was a pretty innovative idea. Virginia Satir emphasized nurturing her clients. She highlighted the importance of self-esteem, compassion, and congruent expression of feelings, and she published Conjoint Family Therapy in 1964. Carl Whitaker, he was considered creative and wise. He was known for effective-based spontaneous intervention, so based on emotion and things that had action-oriented, connected professionals with similar interests. John E. Bell used group therapy with families, and he believed in including all children ages 9 and above in the family therapy sessions because, again, he saw that the dynamics of the family were impacted by all members of the family, regardless of age or stage. Systems theory, an example is a family as a system. It's a set of elements interacting with one another, with each element influenced by the other elements. As we said, members of a family. It's only as strong as its weakest parts. It's greater than the sum of its individual parts. It's organized in a particular manner with more or less permeable boundaries. It's potentially self-regulating with the goal of homeostasis, so maintaining some type of balance. And it has a it's focused less on linear causality and more on circular causality. So family therapy in the 1970s, this particular decade, there was an increase in the membership for the American Association of Marriage and Family Therapy, the founding of the American Family Therapy Academy, the refinement of family therapy theories, the influence of foreign therapies and therapists, so more global perspective. There was a growth of family enrichment, and the introduction of feminism into the family therapy field impacted the understanding of roles in families and also the outcomes of therapy. The 1980s was also an interesting decade in the development of family therapy. There was a change in family therapy leadership, a growth in the number of individuals and associations dedicated to family therapy, an increase in research related to family therapy, the introduction of a multi-systemic therapeutic approach, and an increased national recognition of marriage and family therapists. So again, the field was emerging as such that people were gaining more notoriety in the field, and it was being established in a way that was considered much more professional. It was getting more of the accolades that it deserved. Okay. In the 1990s, family therapy also had some changes. Some of the shifts began in terms of specialties that started to emerge and various theories that continue to emerge in the 90s. Feminist family therapy, reflecting team approach, the therapeutic conversations model, a psychoeducational model, the internal family systems model, and the cybernetic approach, just to name some. Social constructivism became more prevalent, and there was more emphasis placed on educating practitioners with special types of families. So we saw some shifts even in the families in terms of how they're defined and some of the traditional roles that we saw in families. So again, this allowed professionals opportunities to change their approaches to dealing with families and how families were defined. Okay, in the 2000s or in the aughts, the growth and influence of family therapy became more international. So again, globalization impacted this. The licensure for family therapists was achieved in all 50 states. The accreditation of family therapy education programs grew. Research on the effect of family therapy on different cultural groups began to grow and become more established. And new versions of what it was like to work with families were developed. 2010 to the present, there's an increased use of technology, and we've all seen this even with changes after the pandemic, how technology has become more instrumental in providing services and identifying issues, and this is no different for family therapeutic approaches. A revision of the Code of Ethics for both the AAMFT in 2012 and the IAMFC in 2017, and we'll continue to see revisions in the codes of ethics. The publication of the DSM-5, which just recently we have the DSM-5 TR, or text revision, so we've seen even some additional changes into diagnostic criteria. And then Supreme Court decisions on marriage and family life are constantly changing, and these socio-political contexts impact how we practice and the goals of family therapy. So as I said, that was chapter 1, looking at some of the historical approaches. You can follow along with the textbook to gain additional information and insight into each of these concepts and theories. Thanks for listening.